in this case, explains that the acceptance of so in this case we're going to talk about the differences in a few psukim in the Megillah. An interesting question that we see that the words themselves, the Megillah itself, tells us about the difference between there's the mitzvah of Purim and then there's the mitzvah of the day itself the mitzvah of like the simcha and the acceptance of the day of Purim as a day, and then we also have the days, the mitzvah, the specific mitzvah of the day itself, and he picks up on a change in language between the difference in language between the two different psukim that happen within very close to each other. So he says here, the laws, meaning the halachot of Purim, are different according to different people who you are, but he says the acceptance of Purim is unanimous. So how do we get to that? So he says, we know that in Pasuk, in Perek Tet, Pasuk Kav Zayin, it says, Kimu v'kiblu hayudim, right? Why does it say ki? But if we look in the we look in the words in the Pasuk, in the Megillah, it says Kibel hayudim, right? It says Lama Ktiv, right? It says Kibel hayudim, right? V'lashon yachid, right? So in one pasuk it says Kimu v'kiblu hayudim. And then why does it say in another pasuk it says, right? Oh, sorry. The correct way to pronounce it is to say kiblu, right? But it's written in the singular form. So it says, even though it says kimu v'kiblu, if you look in the pasuk it says kimu v'kibel, right? We read it as kiblu, but it's actually written kibel, right? Mikol shekain. In fact, he says, this is Torah Kaf 20. Sorry, we move to the next one. So it says in the Pasuk Perek Tet, Pasuk Kav Zayin, it says Kimu v'kiblu. We read it as Kimu v'kiblu, but it says Kimu v'kibel. And in the Pasuk later on in the Pasuk Kav Gimel, it says Kibel. Right, Kibela Yehudi. The Jews undertook to continue the practice that's begun. Karine Hachinama v'Kibel b'Lashon Yachid, and he's even pronounced v'Kibel. So why is the singular form used when the verse is referred to as all Jews? So he's trying to understand is what's the difference between Kimu v'Kiblu and Kibel. There must be a reason that in one place we pronounce it Kibel and one place we pronounce it Kiblu, right? So that he's trying to understand. Correct. In both cases it's written kibel, but one of them we use it and we say kiblu, and one place we read it as kibel. So it means one of them is plural form and one of them is singular form, right, as a unit. Milvad ma. Now he's trying to say refers to where he dresses. He says milvad ma shekatavnu drush bedrush lamala. Besides what we've said in drush yud daled. Yuvad b'mayda amrina b'perek hamad ha'rayid daf gimel. We can understand another besides what I wrote in Drush Yudalid, which is quite a long Torah. He says that we can look at understand that based on what it says in Horayot, in the first chapter of first parak of Horayot. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, me'ah yashesru lahorot. If 100 judges convene to rule a halachic matter, ein chayavim ad shiru kulam. They cannot be liable to offer to make an offering for if they unless they all rule together. Right, Rasha. Right, if someone was made either they made a judgment. No, it says actually to offer to an offering for erring in their ruling. Meaning, let's say they made a mistake in their ruling, and they have to, in order for them to say yes, we made a mistake. In order for them to accept the fact that there's a mistake, and they have to bring a korban, right? All 100, whoever number of judges, they all have to be unanimous in the judgment. Right? Meaning that if everyone, right, the pasuk says that if the whole achishgu kulam until the entire assembly, meaning everyone accepted it, they have to until everyone is unanimous, then they don't, according to this, indicate that there's no liability unless they all did it. The v'chol Torah kula kima kaimalan rubo kichulo. Right? Usually when the Torah says something, they say rubo kechulo, meaning, right, if we say the rov, if the rov does it, then everyone did it, right? In this case, they say no, right? V'hachi ketiv kol ha'ida. But here it says the entire eda, ho'il v'chach, due to this, afilu hein mea, right? So it says even if they are 100. Mativ Rav Misharshia, Ein gosrim zera l'tzibor elo im kein rov tzibor yochlim lamod ba. My krav oti atem kivim agoy kulo. So what is he saying here? I'ika goy kulo in ilo lo. So what is he saying? So the Gemara says that it refers to a commitment that the Jews accept upon themselves with the force of a curse, right? With the force of curse, right? So he's saying is basically the Jews are accepting their verses to the. Sorry, I'm mumbling. I should have slowed down. So it says here that the Navi in this case is saying that the prophet is getting angry at the Jews who had committed, they're committed to properly fulfilling their truma, to giving truma and maser, right? But neglected to abide by their commitment. Meaning they're willing to say, I'm willing to commit, but they didn't actually commit. This is the Navi, right? So the verse is saying, the pasuk is saying that they're as if they're stealing from Hashem, because, right, they committed to doing something, to saying that they're going to give truma to Hashem, and they didn't actually do it, right? By referring to the entire nation, right? By referring to the entire nation, kulo, the pasuk is telling us that if the entire nation is included, then the commitment is binding, right? But otherwise, it's not binding. Right? Rav Mesharsha, here it is written, the entire nation. Veruba kecholodami, and majority is like equal to the entire thing. So what are we trying to say? What is the Gemara trying to say there? Meaning, we see from this whole back and forth from the Gemara is that the term entire, meaning kula, kola idah, or idah, does not need to be interpreted literally, as it could be just meaning a majority. It doesn't have to be everyone. It doesn't literally have to mean if there are 6 million Jews, it doesn't mean that all 6 million have to be, unanimous. It has to be that a rove, but it doesn't have to necessarily mean.
Because that contradicts the
exactly.
The issue that he said about the Holtz.
Right. So that's what is he proving here? What is he saying? Nimtzenu l'meidim shaf hecha dechtivat milat kol, right? Amrina ruba kechulo. Ve'ata ksher yitzar katuv lashmiya b'makom echad shekulam davka v'lo rubam en takana el lichtov b'loshon yachid. So he's saying is that even when a verse that says the word entire, meaning kol, we could say that the majority is like the entire. We could say that it's rubo kechulo, meaning it's the majority is like everyone, right? Accordingly, in a place where the pasuk wishes to tell us that is specifically to all, right? And not a majority. There's no recourse other than to write what? To say that the word is in the singular form. What is a good example of that? The good example is he's going to bring it now. Right? So there it says in singular form to prove to us, and that's Rashi brings it, but it's a midrash, a famous midrash, that says, Ki ish echad b'lev echad. Right? You see that when the Torah wishes to tell us that everyone was doing together, right, they use the singular form. Right? So he says the same thing here. Sheratzah katuv lashmienu shekol hayudim kiblu alehem lasot purim. V'im haya omer v'kiblu hayudim. Exactly. You could accept it. You could think about it as saying is maybe it's like the majority, right? Some people said no, we're not going to accept it. We don't really believe it. The miracle didn't happen. Whatever the reason is. So it says. V'kiblu hayudim. If I had written v'kiblu hayudim, the Jews undertook it. Hayiti omer sharov levadol kiblu alehem. V'hu hadin nami im haya omer v'kiblu kol hayudim. Right? Even if we said all the Jews, right? Even in the case where it would have spoken in plural terms, we could have said, even when it was said all the Jews, we could have said that maybe it was all the Jews that were living in Shushan or all the Jews that were living in the area, but not necessarily could we say the fact that it was literally the entire Jewish nation. So now he's going to say, now that I've proven that the word v'kibel, the way it's written in the Megillah, and or written without us knowing v'kiblu, the way that it's written, we can understand that the entire Jewish nation accepted one thing, and then when it says v'kiblu hayudim, that means something else. So now he's going to go to mishum hachi amar v'kibel b'lashon yachid, and therefore it says the kibel kedei lashmi eno shekulam ke'echad kiblu alehem. It's not. He says that the reason why it says v'kibel, or at least why it says ktiv, right? It says kriu ktiv. So here it says ktiv kibel. Kri, we read it as kiblu, right? So now we understand the word v'kiblu. The word kimu v'kiblu hayudim is written in singular form. The word kimu, they upheld, is written and plural. So according to the above, however, both terms should be written in singular. V'im tomar im kain lama lo kativ nami kiyem v'kibel. Kiyem v'kibel Yehudim, right? So he says, Lashmeinu shekulam kimu mitzvat Purim. V'michtav kimu mashma nami haro bilvad. Indicates that only majority of the Jews upheld the laws of Purim. Okay, that's a good question. In the pasuk itself, it says kimu v'kiblu. And if we were really trying to prove a point that everyone accepted it, it should have said kiyem v'kibel. And then we would really understand that everyone accepted Purim, everything about Purim. So now he's going to say is v'yesh lomar de'en achinami shelinyana kiyum efshar lomar shekulam ke'echad kiblu. He says now he's making a distinction, and this is what is beautiful about the Zera Shimshon. He says this again is one of these times when you're just like, wow, I never thought about it this way. So he says regarding to the it's impossible that all of them fulfill the mitzvot of Purim. Why is it impossible? Right? So he says there's no uniform fulfillment of of Purim. That's what he's saying. Sharek ein kulam mikamim b'shaveh. Right? So he says not everyone can be fulfilled the mitzvot of Purim equally. Right? Look at what it says. Harei binyan matanot evyonim ha'inyan aniyim pturim. Right? An ani himself is patur from matanot evyonim on Purim. So he himself, he's already just excluded himself from becoming the everyone. Yes, he has the other mitzvot to do, but he's patur from that mitzvah. So what he's trying to say is, what the Zera Shimshon is saying is that from the acceptance of the fulfillment of the mitzvot of Purim, not everyone is uniform. The kibel, the part that everyone accepts, is the chag of Purim, but not the halachot of Purim. כמו שכתב הפרי חדש בסימן תרצ"ד, וזה לשונו, יש מי שכתב שאני מתפרנס מצדקה, חייב גם הוא במתנת אביונים, ואין לזה טעם. Mistabra vadai the beptire, right? He's saying is that there's no reason that there are some, according to the Pri Chadash says that there are some people who say that an ani, even an ani who's receives money from other people, he too is required to fulfill the mitzvah of matanot avinu. He says no. The Pri Chadash says there's no way for that possible, right? They're exempt, right? Ad kan l'shno v'af b'siman tafrish tzadi hey shekatav hagah. The Ramah says v'isha chayevet b'matanot avinu mishlach manot k'ish. Right? Katav Pri Chadash, ein din zem mechuvar. It's not right either. So the Pri Chadash in both cases he's saying is that while yes, there are the halachot, the chag of Purim is what the Zera Shimshon is proving with the Pri Chadash more correctly is that while the chag of Purim everyone accepted, the halachot of Purim, there are certain levels that each, the ani is exempt from certain things. A woman is exempt for certain things. She can do them, but she doesn't have to do them, right? So you're already creating a situation in which there are different, like let's call it levels or different levels of fulfillment of the mitzvot of the day. And once you've kind of say that, now you can, SLAs, right? That's a good one. That's a good SLAs, right? Right? Yes. Okay. Standard, right? And so he says. So he says, V'od ha'avel she'eno yachol yismach b'Purim. We know the avelim, right? And avel on Purim, yes, he should do some of the mitzvot, but b'tzinah he's really not meant to do. Like he's not supposed to go out and party and jump around, and he's supposed to do the mitzvot as bare minimum, but he's not really b'simcha, right? Right. So he says the fachot dvarim sheb'tzinah noheg, at least the minimum, the laws that apply in private apply. Im kain linyan ha'kiyum einam kulam shavim ke'echad. Aval linyan lekabel aleim mitzvat Purim, dahin lasot zecher laneis kulam ke'echad kiblu aleim. So he's saying is, yes, not everyone can literally fulfill the mitzvah the way they're supposed to for Purim, because we don't have, every person has different levels of obligation, right? But the acceptance of the holiday of the actual commemorating the miracle of Purim, right? Everyone accepted it. There's no question there. So now that he says, now that we can understand the Mishum Hachi, he says, and this explains the difference in the language of the pasuk itself. The first pasuk says that the Jews accepted to continue the practice they've begun, which is what? And we read it as well in Lashon Yachid. And there it's referring to the Nes itself. They accepted the fact that on that day, on the pasuk, which is pasuk Kav Gimel, right? It's important to note the order in pasuk Kav Gimel. The Zera Shimshon says, "V'kibel Yehudim." They accepted it. Everyone, Lashon Yachid, and that's why he says Lashon Yachid, because everyone accepted the fact that they're going to commemorate the Nes of Purim. Aval B'Korah Batra Ketiv Kimu. Right in the later verse, however, is written, they upheld. It writes they upheld. Lefisha b'kiyuma lo shvu kulam echad. There, not everyone is on equal level, right? V'chatav kibel v'karina kiblu. Therefore, it's written kibel, even though it says kri. It says kativ kibel, but we read it as kiblu, right? Even though, right? So therefore, lefisha b'kabbalah shvu kulam. Accordingly, we should, in regard to accepting the mitzvah of Purim, we're all on the same level, right? Even one who's confronting mourning, bar minan, chassus chalila, even though he accepted the Purim upon himself, either way. Yes, he's exempt from the halachot of Purim, but the mitzvah of Purim, right, the actual chag of Purim, he's not exempt from that, right? Mishum hachi karinan kiblu. That's why we read it as kiblu. Dahainu likiyuma mitzvot apratiyot, dahainu mishloach manot. Lo shu kulam, right? The private mitzvot that every person has, every person in their own status, whether you're an avel, whether you're an ani, whether you're a woman, you have different levels and different status of mitzvot and different levels of fulfillment of the mitzvot, and therefore the different level of fulfillment of mitzvot is understood through the word v'kibel, even though we read it v'kiblu, right? So he's trying to distinct that yes, we all accept kibel Yehudim, we all accept the mitzvah of Purim, meaning the chag of Purim. That the entire Chag of Purim we accept it, and that we have an obligation to be mifarseim the nes and to be part and to remember the fact that this is a great day. They did not accept it upon themselves, meaning that the mitzvot, every person, there are people with different levels of obligation, but with the Chag of Purim and the miracle of Purim, it's not. It's a different level of commitment. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen. Shkoyach.
Next week we don't have a class.
Next week there is no class. It's called Purim. Purim.
Those are Purim glasses.
These are not Purim. These are my These are my permanent glasses. My Purim glasses. I actually have a pair of Purim glasses. My Purim glasses are one square and one round.
1 second. These are real glasses.
Every glasses.
What happened to your other glasses?
I got new ones. Time to get new ones.
Wait a minute. You remind me of that Hasidic rapper. What's his name? Lip Schmelzer.
Lipa Schmelzer. Yeah.
That's what you had to sing.
He has some funky glasses
Do
too.
these light up in the dark, right?
No, they don't actually.
It's a safety thing, the yellow. So when you.
Thank you for asking. I appreciate it.
I thought you put them on for Purim.
No. Someone else mentioned that to me as well.